Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and this is your end of day market recap. Wow, what a day that we had on our hands. You could see a lot of things going on my screens for the day. You had the S&P as well as the Qs down about the same today, but off the lows. You could see the percentage change here. Down about 0.6 of a percentage point. The small caps also were kind of hit again early, but you could see they actually came back for the day. They actually came back more than the micro caps. Sorry, more than the Qs did. So that's a little bit of a change there finally for the small caps, which have been underperforming all year long. Bonds and the dollar were kind of fluctuating a little bit today. Bonds end up being down, but just slightly for the day. They went green there for a few minutes during the day, and you can see that the dollar, which I could take that out of this red for the day, but the dollar finished up slightly, but it kind of fell apart a little bit towards the end of the day. Again, you can see percentage change. Again, always important to see where things opened up this morning and where things kind of finished for the day. And by the way, risk disclaimer in front of you, everything that we're going through in this video is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. So breadth, and by the way, this has to be updated a little bit. Sorry about that, but and the diamonds, they for a brief minute too today also went positive, but they could not hold the gains. That was a little bit after the open today. But all in all, I think, as bad as the breadth was today, the breadth has been just ridiculously bad in 2024. Overall, I think that today wasn't as bad as it could have been. So I kind of think that maybe we turn the corner a little bit, not finishing on the close. Take a look at the movers for the day. When I talk about breadth, something like this kind of helps you see it visually, right? Other than looking at our indicator, which looks at advancing versus declining, along with volume on it, so like volume up, volume down. But you could see for the S&P, you had 403 names that went down and 99 that went up. And then when we get to the 4-week new highs versus new lows, right? And this is something that I do put together in the midday Substack. Make sure that you're subscribing to that. That is ttgtrading.substack.com. Again, it's ttgtrading.substack.com. I'll put together some themes behind that, but you could see. Well, now we have to zoom back out a minute just to see this, but there were, and this is just 4-week new highs. It's not 52-week, but there's only 39 names in the S&P that made a 4-week new high. And in terms of new lows, right, this was not the case. This is, so this is new to see this many. There's 179 names that made 4-week new lows. So new lows. So we've got some major deterioration that's been happening. Now, this could switch, right? I mean, this has been the case. This really started to turn in the middle of last week, where we were still seeing more 4-week new highs, and they started to even out for a couple days, and then the last 3 days, we've really kind of been seeing more new lows, and they've really jumped yesterday and today, right? Just to give you a kind of visualization of what's going on under the hood, which I think is important, right? Another way to look at this, of course, is something called the McClellan Summation Index, and that is in here, right? And this is from yesterday. It has not updated, but you're going to get the same thing. So somebody asked me on Twitter, they said, is this indicator accurate? Yeah, or it's not predictive or anything. It's just telling you what's going on in terms of momentum, right? And how many more names are going down versus up. So again, I talk about this during the day just to kind of, so to give you a kind of a grasp of what's going on. So what is the conclusion, or why is this important? The analogy that I always give is that if you're just picking names out of a hat, right, to go long, let's say, right? And you have no edge in those 10 names, right? If the market breadth is positive, right, and you've got a really strong day, the odds are that out of those 10 names that you pick, 6 or 7 of them are going up, right? And only 3 or 4 of them are going down. Now, vice versa, when you have this situation, right, where you've got many more names going down, you pick 10 names out of a hat, and with that type of market breadth, you're going to lose every time, right? You're going to have, let's say, 3 or 4 names that go up and 6 or 7 names that go down. So that's why you want to know what kind of environment you're in, right? And why is that too? Because we want environments that are easy, right? We don't want to have the hardest environments. I know that's kind of contrary, I think, to how sometimes retail traders think. Retail traders always pick the hardest stocks, in my opinion. I always get questions on things that are way in downtrends, and hey, what do you think about this stock? And people they're trying to find something that no one else is trying to find, and they don't go to the easy situations, right? And where you and this is about making money, right? You want to go to where the situations are the easiest, not the hardest, right? That's great. Like if you want to solve a puzzle, right, then get yourself a 10,000 puzzle piece, right? And pick get as many as high as puzzle count as you can get. But that's for fun, right? You don't want a difficult environment when you're trading stocks. You want the easiest environment, right? Because it's all about making money. It's not all about the challenge, right? But so yes, as you know, if you're a regular viewer of my video, I stick to names and uptrends. I won't spend too much time about the Chinese internet names, but they were down. How much were the Chinese internet names down today, right? And it's funny, I posted a couple charts saying, wow, these things are really in downtrends. I saw people on my feed were saying, I'm going to buy more. Like, what are you doing that for? You're going to buy the worst thing out there? Why? Like, of all the things that you're gonna buy, you're gonna buy the worst stinking things out there. So again, I'll move on from that. But I think people, when I don't even respond to some people like that on Twitter. What I would suggest you do is buy a couple trading books and learn learn a little bit about the principles of trading, not picking things that are going down. But I'll move on from that because I digress. Let's talk about where the indices are. Because regardless of all that negative breath that we've been dealing with so far this year, then indices don't look that bad. The only, one of the things that I see here is the possibility of a double top, right? That we've got here, but we're also not breaking this yet. And I would be aware if we really kind of break, I think this is last week's lows, right? When we're looking at this, we're still kind of holding on to the 20-day moving average, but notice that we've lost the 5-day moving average. And I like to see prices above the 5-day moving average. For the S&P futures, last week we took out a VPOC. We took out a VPOC today and bounced, right? SPY is a little bit different, right? The VPOC still remains there. It does not have to be taken out, right? But bottom line is both of these are below the value area, right? So the 1-hour charts always give us, a glimpse of what's going on in that short term, so that you can kind of see the turns develop a little bit quicker. And for now, we're trending below the value area. So we're kind of trending down for the short term, right? And notice that remember that we drew this, we go back. See if I can find this for you. Oh, nope. Probably on S&P futures. Go back to S&P futures. Nope, I don't have one there either. But let's start with the Qs, right? So the Qs, notice that we had this little head and shoulders, and then we broke, and we really broke. So let me go back to the SPY just for a second. All right, but you kind of have something similar to that. So what we would want to see is price get back above and get back into the value area, and that would negate this kind of like funky head and shoulders pattern. Because if this gets rejected, then you could begin to look at point your eyes down here. But for now, what I would want to say is, or say whatever, is for price to get back above 473.17, right? Qs, and we could start with the 1-hour chart here, but they look a bit, even though that they were down at one point a little bit, they were down more than the S&P. They came back to finish about the same, but notice how this did not break its value area. So this is a bit stronger. And if we look at the daily chart, yes, we have a lower high in here, which is kind of a technical issue that we have here in the short term. but we're still holding the 20-day moving average. So nice hammer bar. Didn't retake the 5, but let's give it to maybe tomorrow to see what happens there with the price in between the 5 and the 20-day moving average. I like to cover IWM as well. Yes, it bounced off the lows, but man, this has been a mess for IWM. Holding the 50-day moving average, that's what I highlighted in my pre-market note. That we might see a push down there, and then we might see some support at that 50-day moving average. Also on the 1-hour chart, I don't think we took out that. We came very close to taking out that VPOCs, and that's still in play. The price is not that far away from that. We get some other volatility overnight, and this could get taken out in the overnight session. Bonds, we might as well talk about these for a second. Here's TLT. Now below that 200-day moving average, below value, and kind of hanging by a thread here at the 50-day moving average. So if you're a market bull or if you're bullish, you're going to want to see this TLT to hold in here, right? If we break that, I think you don't have to guess too much what it's going to mean for equities, but higher yields has been bad for equities. It's been bad for small caps. It's been bad for, a whole bunch of, higher beta areas. So that's the key. This, and of course, when we look at what the dollar is doing as well, right? We don't want to see the dollar, that's a nice looking candle, right? It kind of rejected that higher price. So if we can kind of sit back here, right, and these things can kind of firm up a little bit, instead of the dollar raging higher, as well as bond yields going raging higher as well, then equities might have a shot, right, at a bit of a rebound for the week. All right, so that's your must-watch areas in terms of macro review. Stocks, again, like the leaders are doing pretty well. Go through a couple of the semis, which were really hot. I mean, look at AMD, right? AMD came all the way back today, so super strong. Right, there is you talk about relative strength, right? And again, like this was a dip for you to buy. A lot of people are like, oh, I can't buy it here, right? Well, if you bought it at 155 today, right, right around the lows, look at it come all the way back. That's $5, right? Versus trying to buy some some loser Chinese internet stock that nobody wants right now. So, these are the things that, in my opinion, that you want to be paying attention to. NVIDIA was not bad either. Look at the move from NVIDIA off the lows. I did buy this one today. I added to my position a little bit. Again, I had been trimming all the way up, right? So, and over the last week. So I wanted a dip to kind of add some back, right? A nice little check back there, and this held quite nicely, right? So looking at this chart, right, again, notice the difference here. Price is still holding above the 5-period moving average, right? Doing its thing really well. Another one that kind of came into view towards the end of the day was ARM Holdings, which is, I've been mentioning that it needed to kind of hold this candle, all these red candles. Well, it turned today. So I would be looking for continuation in this tomorrow. The level of support where it's not going to work, right? And this is important too, 68.86. If it rejects this value area entrance, then then it negates the nice little turn that it had today. Notice as well that the 80% bullish rule is in effect for the week. Once you enter a period, when you start below, right, it triggers the 80% rule, looking for basically an 80% chance. It goes all the way up to 72.23 for the week. All right, so not bad there. A couple of the other names that have been showing strength, ESTC had a good day today. That rebounded. That's a name that I've been long. Right, still, as I talked about yesterday, a lot of these top of value areas have been really sticky to get through. So same thing, even though ESTC came back from the lows, a hell of a comeback, it still did not break over 116.77. Just outside of tech, AMR had a nice day. That was one of our names on our watch lists. Let's see if you can have this someplace. Is that here? Yeah. So ARM was up, I think, 5%. That did trigger. From what I was looking at, up 1.7%. Of course, AMD has been the star performer there. Datadog also had a decent day, although I don't know if that got through it did get through its value area. So again, talking about these were sticky. Look at the move in this, right? Really nice range today. Explored some lower levels and it was bought up. So, usually that's a good sign. CrowdStrike had a downgrade today from some broker that I don't even know, but this could wind up being a buying opportunity for Crowd too. The dips of buying the dips in this name have worked pretty well. And then Zscaler, which I'm still long, didn't have the best day, but it closed right at the top of value. So hanging on to that one and going from there. One name I did get long today. Again, I was looking for something a bit more defensive. This T-Mobile trade worked. I like when you have this tight consolidation in an uptrend like this. Took its leg higher. I did take some profits. I took one profit target in that today. Another name that I'm going to be adding to the watch list is Affirm. Right, this Affirm has kind of been a dog here. Let's see if it can continue to rebound and maybe get above those short-term moving averages tomorrow. Look at it took one of these two VPOCs out, right? And it's trying. So a little bit too early to tell, but just adding to the watch list. That's why we pay attention. That's why we pay attention to them. So will be not ARM, Affirm will be added to the watch list for tomorrow. Whoops. What else did I have on my watch list? Both Uber and Dash look about the same. Right? These charts are so similar looking. They're hanging in there, right around the top of value, right? So again, sticky, 63.22, and then Dash. I think Dash actually looks a little bit, a tiny bit better, right? Also, same thing, hanging around this top of value. See if it stays above 102.65. I don't have anything on at the moment in this. And just to round out our watch list, the restaurants have been doing okay. Kava, which I added a starter position in today. It did not close. Unfortunately, it did not close on its highs. I took one target in this too. I always take I always try to get that first target in because it gives me flexibility. So I took that, I think around 45 today. So as long as it stays above 42.76, it did not make it through this pivot today. And then CMG, which also had a really nice day today too in a tough market, getting above yesterday's highs. Again, bullish 80% rule active on this one as well. So to sum up, once again, disgusting breath in terms of what's going on in the internals in this market. But I do think that we're due for at least one day this week. And I know it's complicated with a monthly options expiration where all the leaps are unwinding. But I think that we're going to get one day this week where we see the breath a little bit better. And even if it's something like for tomorrow, where we open up and we gap up a little bit, it'll give you a great opportunity to sell into, right? I wouldn't mess with a gap up in this market in terms of like looking to add any positions. I would be a seller into some strength, at least to kind of, take off a little bit of risk. So we'll see that. I don't know if that happens tomorrow, but I think one day this week we might get that, or if not, or at the very least, maybe in the beginning of next week after options expiration. All right, guys, have a great night. See you tomorrow.